everyone, and welcome into Going for the Green. I'm Sara Perlman, and for the next 30 minutes, we will be providing you the best info heading into this week's U.S. Open. And to help me do that, of course, I welcome in my good friend, our resident golf expert, Mr. Will Gray. Will, we are just a few days away from the toughest test in golf, but I do know our bet slips are going to pass with flying colors. How is it looking over in Boston today?
Yeah, I've made it to Boston. I've not yet gotten over to the course. I'm excited to check it out this afternoon. But already from what we've seen, it's interesting because it's a course that we haven't seen in the U.S. Open since 1988. So there's a lot of learning on the fly for media, for players, for fans alike. It's going to be a great week. Certainly a ton of storylines right now. It seems like the sport of golf is trending more towards a soap opera than a sport, but it's a little mix of both this week. And we're going to have no shortage of tickets to write, and certainly no shortage of storylines this week in Brookline.
Yeah, we're going to get into all of that. But first, let's take a look at the current outright odds right now over at PointsBet. And with that, we will see the top of the odds, of course, with Rory McIlroy, 11-1 over at PointsBet. No surprise, incredible showing at our BC Canadian Open, holding off Justin Thomas. So he is the betting favorite. They're looking at Justin Thomas, 12-1. And followed by Jon Rahm, 13-1. Rahm, of course, entering this week, 3 top 10 finishes in his last 5 starts. He had a win at last month's Mexico Open. Does anything pop right away as we look at the top of the odds market there?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. We can get into this later in the show, but I'm a little surprised at just how much action is going towards Rory McIlroy. To put him ahead of JT coming off that PGA Championship win, to put him ahead of world number 1, Scottie Scheffler, and, of course, defending champion Jon Rahm. Those 4 have kind of clustered near the top. I think you can make a case for each of them. They certainly have the game that should suit themselves well at the country club. But for Rory to be out in front, I know there was a Sunday 62 to win the Canadian Open, but we ran this tape back 3 years ago. He won the Canadian Open, finished T9 at Pebble Beach the next week at the U.S. Open. So I'm not exactly sold on Rory as the top dog in this field, but when you get to the U.S. Open, when you got thick rough, slick greens, anything can happen, as we've seen in recent years.
So when we get into our best bets, or your best bet, I will not expect to see 11-1 Rory McIlroy ticket. Let's get into the big storylines. You touched on it a little bit off the top, Will, and this, of course, includes the handful of golfers we didn't really necessarily see their top, or they're further down the odds for, rather. So this is the first event that LIV Golf now has players teeing it up alongside their former PGA Tour counterparts, and we've definitely seen shots fired from both sides earlier this week. So how do you see all of this playing out?
Yeah, this is a huge storyline dominating early in the week. You have the players like Phil Mickelson and Dustin Johnson, Louis Oosthuizen, who went last week to England and played in the first LIV Golf event, who have now been suspended by the PGA Tour. You have others like Bryson DeChambeau and Patrick Reed, who have pledged that they're going to play in the next LIV Golf event, which is at the end of the month in Portland, Oregon. And now the USGA came out last week and said, listen, if you've qualified for this event, you get to play. So this is a week where we have everyone under one tent, so to speak. You've got the PGA Tour folks, the ardent supporters like Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas, who went toe-to-toe last week in Canada. And you have the guys that have essentially defected to the LIV Golf Group. So it's definitely a fascinating storyline. It's interesting to see how it's going to play out this week. Phil Mickelson was the first guy in the media center on Monday afternoon. It was the first time he'd basically done a press conference on this side of the Atlantic since late January. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot more questions than answers right now, but it is going to be a fascinating dynamic to see these two groups kind of coexist at this point.
Right, with Phil Mickelson not only answering questions, he's making his first PGA Tour event since late January. Are there any guys that are now in LIV Golf that we're looking that stand out? Maybe not Phil, but you like their odds?
Yeah, I think Louis Oosthuizen, you remember last year, he was the bridesmaid of pretty much every major championship. He is a great player under these major conditions. Dustin Johnson is another guy that I have an opinion on, but we're probably going the other way. It's been a while since DJ has played some good golf, and the same with Phil Mickelson, who basically didn't touch a club for a couple months. But yeah, when you look at some of these guys, and especially when you look at Patrick Reed, who is someone who has said he's going to leave the PGA Tour, he's going to go to LIV Golf, and he has started to trend back in the right direction. You have Bryson DeChambeau, who just won the U.S. Open a couple years ago. He's coming off that hand injury, which kept him out of several events, including the PGA Championship. I'm going to pump the brakes on Bryson right now. Wait to see him get a little bit more healthy, even though the number is approaching 100-1, which is amazing to think about for him and this style of test and how close he was last year, even to going back-to-back at this tournament. But I think of the LIV Golf guys, the one that would catch my eye would be Louis Oosthuizen at this point.
Okay, we'll take a step back from the LIV Golf guys and head on back to the PGA Tour guys. And for that, you talked about Rory McIlroy, the favorite, not buying in on him, Will. Are you buying any momentum from whether Justin Thomas, he had a big Sunday as well, you touched on, or guys further down the board, anyone else pop?
Yeah, I think when it comes to Rory and JT, the U.S. Open is such a brutal test, both physically and mentally. You want to approach this with a level head and an even keel. And I don't know that either of them are there right now. I would lean more towards JT than Rory, but they're both going to put some pressure on themselves this week to try and make a statement given everything that's going on around the sport. And Rory, especially, we saw just last month at Southern Hills at the PGA Championship. He gets off to this great start. It looks like this is going to be the time, and he just kind of sputters from there. He stalls out. He never really contended down the stretch when we had a wild finish for the PGA in Tulsa. So it's amazing to think it's been 8 years since Rory won his most recent of his 4 major titles. I'm going to wait. I'm certainly not going to buy in at a price below, 12, 13-1 like we're seeing right now. But I'm much more intrigued with guys that have somehow drifted out to the 25, 30, 33-1 range. Guys like Will Zalatoris, this could be a great week for him. I'm very bullish on Shane Lowry just in general. I'm just donating money until Shane Lowry wins a golf tournament. It's going to happen sometime.
You love Shane Lowry more than anyone, I'm convinced.
But Zalatoris, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland. This is going to be a week, Sarah. I know we're going to get into the course a little bit more shortly, but this is a week where you need the flushers. You need the guys that are really, really great ball strikers. You don't need the guys necessarily that are great putters or have a great short game.
We're going to talk to Jay Croucher, head of trading over at PointsBet. I'll be curious to find out how many tickets they're writing just on Rory McIlroy. Obviously, his awesome showing last weekend, and he's one of 15 golfers all time who have won 20 PGA Tour events and 4 majors. I have a feeling they're going to have a little liability on Rory with that short price they're hanging. But let's get into the course. Like any U.S. Open, we are always going to talk about it, and Brookline is that. They've seen plenty of big events at the Country Club, hosting 3 previous U.S. Opens, 6 U.S. Amateurs, and the last being in 2013. So I ask you, Will, what challenges does this track offer, and which players exactly can you see taking advantage of this course?
Yeah, this is going to be a classic U.S. Open setup in every sense of the phrase. I would think back to Marion in 2013, which is another course that it was pretty tight, and they hadn't played a U.S. Open in a while. I think those are going to be some comps, so to speak, in terms of what the course is going to present. Only 2 par 5s. Both of them are very difficult. There's going to be high rough, very tight fairways. So it's not going to be enough to just hit it 320 off the tee. You really need to keep the ball in play, avoid those double bogeys and big scores. And then when it comes to the greens, they're really small. It is amazing to think that this course is as big as it is with the targets as small as they are. The precision from iron play is going to be very key. And there are going to be some interesting visual dynamics, stuff that we're not used to seeing week in and week out on the PGA Tour. Things like blind approach shots where you have to play over a 30-foot rise in order to get up to the same level as the green, or you're going to have a shot where you're having to hit a 5-iron or a 4-iron and you don't know, you can't see where exactly you're actually hitting it. So again, this is all going to cause me to lean on players who are strong tee to green, really strong with the iron play. We have some recent form, as you mentioned, the 2013 U.S. Amateur, where you had Matt Fitzpatrick won, Scotty Scheffler, Bryson DeChambeau, Corey Connors. Those are some guys that were all in the mix. Corey Connors made the semifinals. Bryson was in the match play, as was Scheffler. Mm-hmm. So when you look back, and 9 years is a long time, especially for those guys when they were just playing junior golf or collegiate golf, and they've changed a lot as players. But I think it does show the type of player that we can look for this week. You don't need to be the longest player in the field. You need to be precise. You need to be able to control your ball from tee to green.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned it. Obviously, a shorter course for U.S. Open standards, second smallest greens played in U.S. Open in the last decade, aside from Pebble Beach. You're talking about the golfers that fit the standard. Give me a few that really fit this course and can thrive this weekend.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of attention on Matt Fitzpatrick. As I said, he did win here back in 2013. He's playing very well at the moment, still waiting for that first PGA Tour victory, just like Will Zalatoris, just peppering the leaderboard, cashing top 10 tickets all over the place, but not getting that victory. This could be the week, given how well he has played in weeks leading up to this. But again, I'm going to go back to guys. I love Colin Morikawa this week. If you can hit the ball well enough to win at Royal St. George's and win at TPC Harding Park. He can find it at a moment's notice. I don't need as much recent form out of him as I would another player to trust that he's going to be able to deliver on a big stage.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into our more best bets and who could thrive on this course. But for now, if you're looking for more golf betting content this week, be sure to tune into our daily betting podcast, Bet the Edge. Bet the Edge is live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can download wherever you find your favorite podcast. Do not go anywhere. When we return, we bring on the book. PointsBet head of trading, Jay Croucher, joins us next to talk more U.S. Open bets.
Welcome to NBC Sports EDGE, your one-stop for everything fantasy, DFS, and more. Get up-to-date news and insights from our award-winning analysts. Looking to raise your game even more? NBC Sports EDGE Plus helps you level up with an array of premium tools and resources keeping you ahead of the pack. Learn more at NBCSportsEdge.com.
Welcome back into Going for the Green. We have already tackled the top storylines heading into this week and what exactly that means for your betting card. But to get a real sense of how to beat the book this week, what better way than to hear from them? Joining us now is our good friend and head of trading over at PointsBet Sportsbook, Jay Croucher. Jay, thanks so much for taking the time. How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, lots of sport happening at the moment between the NBA Finals, NHL Stanley Cup, and the US Open. So it's about to get a little bit quieter on the sports calendar. So it's good to have plenty going on.
Well, there is plenty of star power near the top of this outright market, as Will and I discussed at the top of the show, and certainly some big names with longer odds over at PointsBet. What are you guys seeing right now as the largest liability at PointsBet?
So our biggest liability right now is Phil Mickelson. You might have heard of him. He's been in the news lately. So 200 to 1 on Phil Mickelson. I'm not sure anyone actually thinks he's going to win this tournament, but I think people just want to attach themselves to the storyline. So obviously he does have the track record of winning at a similar price at a major last year at Kiowa at the PGA Championship. I don't think he's going to win the US Open, but, you know, it would be quite an incredible story if he's even in the mix late. But he is our biggest liability by far at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, we would have laughed off the same thoughts a year ago at Kiowa at about the same price, and then he went and won it. But I do think that it's very different right now for Phil. You think back 6 runner-up finishes, but the most recent was 2013. Since then, he has finished better than T48 only one time in this tournament. So I'm with you. I think that, you know, Phil is probably not going to be around for the weekend, let alone in contention, but we shall see.
I could tell you now, I'm not betting on Phil Mickelson, and I think a lot of people are certainly doing that because of the storyline and everything surrounding him. But I am curious in terms of bigger bets, which obviously add to liability as well, I'm aware, but bigger bets on bigger names, maybe even some sharper money right now. What kind of action are you guys taking?
So a lot of action at the top of the odds board where the big names, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, those are the big 4 in golf to us anyway at the moment in terms of how we're setting the odds week to week. This week they're very clustered together, and I think you'll see, you know, over the course of the next few weeks that those are going to be the guys at the top of the odds board, and then it's going to just depend on recent form as to who is leading week to week between those guys, and then also the course. And so Rory, with his win, he is right now, you know, the big guy, and he's the favorite for the tournament. He's attracted a lot of money. I think there's just something wholesome about winning a bet on Rory McIlroy, particularly with everything that's going on at the moment. So he's a very popular bet most weeks. There haven't been too many wins on Rory McIlroy for bettors the past 3 years, though obviously they do have the recent win. But he is the standout in terms of the big bets at the top of the board. And then as you go a little bit further down, you'll see a lot of action on guys like Will Zalatoris, who I think everyone expects is just going to win a major pretty soon because he gets so close and seems to really get up for the majors. So he's another guy who's seeing a lot of activity. And then drifting into that 25 to 1 range, Matt Fitzpatrick is the guy who stands out from there. He's got the history at this course. He's been in good form with 3 top 10s in his past 4 starts. So he's another guy to keep an eye on.
Boy, if folks are concerned that they haven't cashed enough win tickets with Rory, wait till they see the Zalatoris and Fitzpatrick numbers combined. But I want to follow back on McIlroy with you, Jay. We mentioned at the top of the show, we've got the top 4 players are pretty clustered near the top: Rory, JT, Jon Rahm, and Scottie Scheffler. Coming off that Canadian Open win, is that a book decision to put Rory out in front of that group, or is that something where you put them all kind of on even footing and let the market dictate who needed to be out ahead?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a combination of both. I think recent form is a material factor in how we do set the lines week to week. And then there's also just the element of it's Rory McIlroy and he's just won a tournament and everyone's going to want to bet on him. He's been, in the media a lot recently. He's very much front of mind, even more so than he typically is. And it was a similar lead up to the PGA Championship last year, where a lot of hype behind Rory with his form, and then he was our most bet on player at the PGA Championship last year. And this year it is somewhat similar. I do think these guys are really close together though in terms of skill level. And it's interesting, the guy who's getting the least attention of those 4 is Jon Rahm, who has burned a lot of people over the past 12 months. I mean, he was favourite for every tournament and almost never won outside of the US Open last year, which is perhaps the most material one. So Jon Rahm, just with his, relative lack of form this season, though by most standards he still played well enough, he's just not attracting that much betting activity.
No, that checks out. And I'm not surprised to hear all of that about Rory McIlroy and the action you guys are taking on him. The outright market is so hard, and we know that. And that's why a lot of people, including myself and Will and our listeners, love to look into the prop market and novelty prop markets. So, Jay, I ask you over at PointsBet, what are some of the prop bets available that you're taking some action on and that stand out to you?
Yeah, so one of the favorites every tournament is, will there be a hole-in-one in the tournament? -130 on the yes, which is a lot more fun to barrack for than the no side, I can tell you. So that's a popular one each week, and is again this week. And then in terms of, digging a bit more into the minutiae, looking at what will be the winning score, where we have the line set at 276.5. So we think that 4 under wins this tournament, which is low, but also an indication of, the US Open and how difficult the courses are. And one thing I will tell people is that, when you do have an expected winning score that, isn't, 15, 20 under, the fact that it is only 4 under we think will win, that just shows that there is more scope for a long shot to win, because when a course is very difficult, that's a great equalizer and it throws up more chance for randomness. So if there is 100 to 1, 150 to 1, Phil Mickelson, 200 to 1, if you like someone in that range, perhaps there is a bit more opportunity for them this week.
Okay, I like variance, so maybe we'll target some top 10, top 20 looks with some longer shots. So Will, I ask you, as I always do, I'm curious, your favorite prop bets for this week for the US Open?
Yeah, I'm playing off the point that Jay just made in terms of the randomness that can come with the U.S. Open. This is a harder tournament to predict than maybe any of the other majors, and I think that as a result, we sometimes see the big names tend to falter. So one that I'm going to get a little creative with is neither Cam Smith nor Scottie Scheffler in the top 10. I don't think that Cam Smith's world-class short game is going to be as big of an asset for him this week as it would be at another course where you can get creative and you can kind of make up ground. When you're hacking out of 6-inch rough, everyone kind of hits it in the same place. So both of them outside the top 10. I will give you this nugget. The entire list of players since the world ranking started to win the Masters and the U.S. Open in the same year is pretty short. It's Tiger and it's Jordan Spieth. So I don't know that Scottie Scheffler is going to go and pull off this double dip. But so plus 100, even money on both of them being outside the top 10. And then one more we mentioned before, Dustin Johnson getting a lot of attention going to the LIV. Secret has not played very well in a really long time. Plus 155 to miss the cut. That's a really juicy price for me. I could see him spraying it around this place and really struggling to just make it to the weekend.
Okay, so a lot of miss the cut kind of looks and some plus money there. Plus 155 stands out. I'll be curious then to find out who you like in the outright market pretty soon. But Jay, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate you joining us, and good luck with the action over at PointsBet.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Want to grab an edge for your U.S. Open betting ticket? Be sure to use our premium Edge driver tools. With everything from historical course data to the latest stroke gain statistics, you can be sure to wager with confidence during the toughest test in golf. Head to NBCSportsEdge.com and use promo code GOLF20 for 20% off any subscription. Just one more break here on Going for the Green. And when we come back, we welcome in our friends from Beyond the Fairway, Will Lowery and Doug Smith. Stay with us.
Don't leave money on the table. No matter your sport, the Predictor app has got you covered. Tens of thousands in cash prizes up for grabs every week. And it's free to play. Download the NBC Sports Predictor app powered by PointsBet now.
Welcome back into Going for the Green. We're not only the only NBC crew that's counting down the hours until Thursday morning over at Brookline. So we now welcome in the host of Beyond the Fairway, Will Lowery and Doug Smith. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Doug, I'll begin with you. How fired up are you for this week?
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing it, man. You know, we see so many tricked up golf courses over the past few years in the U.S. Open. To go back to a historic venue where they've already played 4 U.S. Opens over the years. Will said it earlier in the show, haven't been back since 1988, and I've had the chance to go out to this golf course. Brendan Walsh is a friend of mine, the director of golf there at the Country Club. I'm looking forward to a fantastic test. Blind shots, high rough. It's the U.S. Open, Sara.
Yeah, same here. You know, when you think about U.S. Open, the narrative around U.S. Open has always been a grind. And, you know, it's one of the few times of the year where you're playing actually in relation to par. And I think that's what makes the all the more merry when you're scrambling for a 5-footer, save par. And that keeps the momentum of the narrative of U.S. Open for sure.
Yeah, the U.S. Open, as you were all saying, some of the richest history, most storied traditions in the game of golf, and one of those being the qualifying process that gives anyone in the country a shot at playing in a major. And luckily for us, both of you could talk about that experience. So how would you describe U.S. Open qualifying to those that have not done it? Will, I'll start with you here.
Yes. I see Doug is smiling right now because he's a butt right now.
It's
but
okay.
Yeah, I've done it for the past maybe as long as I've been playing golf professionally, about 10 years, you know, try to qualify for the U.S. Open. You know, obviously it's your nation's championship, country championship. And, you know, we all have, you know, dreams of winning the Masters, winning the Open Championship. But U.S. Open it really was special to me, trying to qualify. And, you know, this year I tried to qualify, and I left. I had a WD, was drunk. And it just to the point where I didn't finish, you know, and I think I made a turn probably maybe 2 over, and the back 9 never saw my eye, and don't want to encourage quitting, but I just like, hey, there's some other important things I could probably do. So in the words of Doug, I have to write a letter to the USGA next year for sure.
Well, you better be careful. They're gonna send the letter to you. They're gonna tell you. They're gonna be preemptive on that one.
Right.
Well, I wish mine was as smooth as Will's. Mine's a little different, Sara. And one, you know, what a treat it is to be able to try to qualify. It is the most open tournament in golf. So if you've got dreams of playing on the PGA Tour, trying to get into the U.S. Open is one of the better shots you got. Unfortunately for me, I was working PGA Tour Live there that week, came back on a connection from Miami, didn't have my actual clubs I took. So long story short, I got home at like 1 a.m. here on the West Coast. Played golf. It was great for about 14 holes. I was 2 under through 14, and then I got tired, needless to say. But you know, again, it's one of those tournaments where everybody has a chance to get in. If you get hot, you know, in the right week or the right spot, it's a week that could change your life.
No, it's fantastic, and it's so cool you guys have been able to be a part of that process. And everyone, including myself, we love that Cinderella story, especially this time of the year. So if you had to bet on anyone coming out of these qualifiers, that might be a sneaky pick down the stretch that we need to keep our eye on as a long shot. Who piques your interest, Doug? I'll start with you. And if not, who is your outright favorite to win the U.S. Open this year?
Well, this is a very difficult question because this course, Will said it lends to ball strikers, and you've got to be able to play from the fairway. You can't be too awry off the tee. Outright winner, yeah, I'm going to say it. I'm going with Matthew Fitzpatrick. Third year on the PGA Tour. Has he won? Absolutely not. But has he contended? Absolutely. He's played 12 events this year. He's got 7 top 10s, right? So I'm looking for Fitzpatrick to do a lot of things. At the end of 2021, he was 73rd in official world golf ranking points. Guess what? He's 18th now. I'm going with Matthew Fitzpatrick, but I got my eye on Corey Conners. He's one of those guys. He's got the tempo. He plays the style of golf that I really like and enjoy. And well, I got two Wills over there now, but Will, you both know Corey might be able to make some noise this week.
Well, I'm going with Justin Thomas. I don't want to sound too cliche, but but all the stats, you can't. The numbers are the truth. When you think about it, when it comes to staying safe, he's third on the PGA Tour. He's also second in scoring average, and also 14th when it comes to green regulations. Only thing that may be his downfall this week about Justin Thomas is his driving accuracy. He's 147th on the PGA Tour in driver accuracy, and we know that driver can get away from with them fast hips. But most important, he's number one in my heart.
There you go. Strokes gained, heart. Those always get it done. Yeah. Sara, we talked about it. I'm very high on Collin Morikawa. I think back, our friend Drew Dinsick, usually on the show, couldn't make it today. But I think back to the Open Championship when he had Morikawa, and he sat on the show and he said the number is too good for a player of his caliber in terms of the iron play. And it was just about in this range. We're ticking up to 30-1 right now at PointsBet. That is way too high for a guy who can stripe it as he can. So I really think that's going to be a good play. And I love the Corey Conners look. As we mentioned earlier in the show, there are a few guys that played this at the U.S. Amateur, including Matt Fitzpatrick and Corey Conners. There is a chance that some of that success could carry over this week on a course where a lot of guys are flying blind and are trying to learn this course very quickly over these next couple of days.
I feel like I got to sprinkle a little on Fitzpatrick talking about him so much. Hey, that does it for us today on Going for the Green. Best of luck with all of your bets this week. You could follow Will and Doug on Twitter at Will Lowery Golf and the Douglas Fresh, and listen to Beyond the Fairway wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Best of luck with all your bets, and most importantly, enjoy the U.S. Open. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for all the latest fantasy and sports betting advice from NBC Sports Edge. And don't forget to sign up for NBC Sports Edge Plus to get the best-in-class draft guides, as well as season-long fantasy, DFS, and sports betting tools that will give you the edge.